Hello and welcome back. This is the last video of this course. In setting up your IFTT account, it's very similar to what I showed you with Zapier. It really consists of just two steps. Step number one is to connect the services that you're going to be using, and step number two, connect those services. So let's start with, say, Pinterest. So when you log in, you can either use your Gmail account or your Google account or your Facebook account, or you can simply create a custom account. So under the search bar, you're going to type in something like Pinterest. Now, if you haven't connected it already, it's going to be under the services. So connections and services. So connections are basically the recipes, and the services are the actual platforms. So in this case, we have Pinterest, and what you want to do is you want to click connect, and it'll simply connect to your Pinterest account. So once you click that, you're going to see this screen. It's going to ask you to log in. You log into your Pinterest account, and you basically allow it and give it permissions to create boards, save pins for you, access your followers and your follows, access your public info. So this basically tells it, hey, you have permission to log into my Pinterest account and post content. So we're going to click OK. And there we go. So we have connected successfully to Pinterest. And all you need to do is simply connect to the same YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and blog. So you do the same. You go to, let's say, for example, Pinterest to Instagram. So we have Pinterest to Instagram, Pinterest to Twitter, Pinterest to Facebook, and Pinterest to blog. So you can go ahead and do these. Let's say we'll just connect to Pinterest to Twitter. So we'll type in Twitter up at the top here. So in other words, don't set up your recipes just yet. Just focus on the services. So we click services, we scroll down, and we can see Twitter, Buffer, and more. So we just want Twitter. And then we'll click connect. And I went through the process, just logged in, authorized all of that, and connected my Twitter account. So now that we have Pinterest and Twitter connected, now what I want to do is just show you the simplicity of how to connect the two. So now what we can do is, if you go under your account, you click on My Services, you get this page. So remember, we only had date and time, email digest, Facebook pages, and now we have Pinterest and we have Twitter. So I'm going to click on Pinterest, and now we can create recipes. So we can see here it's a connect to Pinterest and post to Facebook pages. Let's scroll down a bit. So these essentially can be triggers and actions. Okay, so up at the top, when you click on your account, you will see an option to create. So when you click account, create, you're going to get this page. Now, the reason why it's called IFTTT is because it stands for if this, then that. So if we refer back to the analogy that I gave you with the bucket of water, I said, if I kick the bucket of water, which is this, if this, then the bucket of water spills over. So it's kind of like a cause and effect. So what we need to do here is, if this, which is going to be Pinterest, we click this here and we look for Pinterest. So we're going to click this here, and you can see that there are two triggers. One trigger is you like a pin or new pin on your board. Now, bear in mind that new pin on your board is not going to post the previous content. So if you have content from a month ago, it's not going to post that onto Twitter. It's only going to post the content from here on out. Now, there's a little trick. If you want to post content that you posted last week, before you set up this automation, you can use something like you like a pin. So if you say you like a pin and then it gets posted to Twitter, you can then go back to the previous content and simply like those pins. And that will trigger to your Twitter account. So by this point, you would have to create 2 different recipes essentially. But by default, for the most of you, you're just going to do new pin on your board. So you're going to click this here, and then you would pick a board and you would click create trigger. So any board, doesn't matter, or you can be specific and say that I only want anything that's posted to a very specific board to be posted to Twitter or to be posted to a specific site. Okay, so we set it up to say if we post to any board, then this is going to happen. So what's going to happen? So we click the plus sign on this, that, and then we simply choose the service. So remember, we go from Pinterest to Twitter. So we're going to select that here, and we can post a tweet. So remember, Pinterest, however, we are dealing with images. So you want to post a tweet with image. So we're going to select that here. And this is basically how it's going to appear as a tweet. So it says just pinned board. So the board is going to be the name of your board in Pinterest, the description of whatever you have pinned, and the pin URL. So you could even customize this by saying, hey, I just posted to the board, which is going to be the board. So you can say posted to the board. So if the board is called like painting, then you can say I just posted to the painting board. Check it out here. Now, bear in mind that you don't want to add too much, because if the description or the pin URL is long, remember the tweet text is very short. So you might want to just say, hey, just posted, and then maybe have it here. So how it was, by default, that might be the best way to do it. And of course, image URL, you can add the ingredients. So basically these are things that you can add. So we have description, we have source URL, most likely will be source URL, and you'll create an action. Okay, so once that is done, we are finished. So now your applet is good to go. So all you have to do now is click on finish, and that is it. So now we have finished from Pinterest to Twitter. So from this line here, actually this line here. So you might want to create a system and say, okay, anything that has been completed, I'm going to turn it into a specific color. And you want to make sure that color that you choose is something that you don't have at all already. So maybe a light gray color like that, so I can see it very vaguely, but not too dark. Maybe something like this. So we can see it, but we can see that it has been completed. So this is why we have the visual map, so we can refer back to it. So we can say, okay, we completed this. The next thing to do is create an applet for Pinterest to Facebook. Once we're done with that, we can simply turn that into gray, and we can see what's left. Pinterest to blog. Once we set that up, we can turn that to gray, and we can see what's left. This is the reason why we have the visual map, because a lot of times most people quit 75% through, and all they have to do is finish that 25%. So this is going to help you and catapult you and move you forward to the 100% and the finish line. So I hope you enjoyed this video course as much as I enjoyed teaching you, and make sure that you follow the steps step by step. And as you can see, this is the end result. Hello and welcome back. This is video number 6. This is going to be a fairly short video, but what I want to do right now is just to show you the different apps that are available to you, which you can use to automate your whole social media presence. So these apps will allow you to implement what we just created in the previous mind map. So we're going to talk about some paid tools first. We're going to talk about 2 of them, and then we'll talk about a free tool that doesn't cost any money. Okay, so the first one is Zapier. That's Zapier. Zapier.com, just as you can see here with this logo. So Zapier.com, and this site, it's a little more expensive, but it contains thousands of apps. So the possibilities of connecting all sorts of social media platforms, blog platforms, and future platforms in the future, it just makes it possible for you to scale. All right, so with Zapier, if you scroll down, you can kind of get an idea where you can integrate different apps. So you can integrate, Gmail, Dropbox, Slack, and all that. But we are mainly interested in the social media platforms. So if you click on apps right here, and let's just search for, all right, let's look at here. So we want to upload from Pinterest to Instagram. So type in Pinterest right here. And this allows us to see the different recipes that are available. So recipes are basically actions and triggers. So if you think about a recipe as when you create a dish, a food dish like a cake, it requires you to have certain elements. So what this allows you to do is recipes are pre-created for you. Now you can create your own recipes if you want to. So if you scroll down here, it says triggers, we create a new board, a new pin. So new pin would be what we want to do. So whenever you create a new pin, it has actions, create a new pin. And then let's see here. So connect Pinterest to 2000 apps. So we can connect this app with, let's say, Facebook. So we got Facebook pages. So now it shows us all the recipes that are available. So it says, let's see, share Facebook page posts on Pinterest. So that would be the opposite, but this one would be what we want. So share Pinterest pins on Facebook page posts. So all you would need to do is connect your Pinterest app, connect your Facebook account, and use this recipe. And you will have implemented Pinterest to Facebook. So you would have finished this line here. So if we want to go from Pinterest to Instagram, we can check to see if that's available as well. So let's just type in Instagram. And see what's available. So we can see you can pin your new Instagram post to Pinterest. So this is quite the opposite. So we need to figure out if it's possible to do it the other way around. So what you would do is you create an account and you would simply have the trigger being you pin a post. Once you pin a post, then the action would be pin it to Instagram or post that content to Instagram. So hopefully you get a better idea of what it can do for you, and that's Zapier. The next automation tool is called automate.io. So automate.io is the website. So if you type that into the URL address at the top, you'll get this page. So Automate is very similar to Zapier, but I will say that they don't have as many app integrations as Zapier, but they're growing. They're getting to that point where they will be able to compete head to head. Now, in terms of customer support, I will say automate.io is phenomenal. If you email them or create a support ticket, a lot of times you will hear back within minutes. And we say that because we've actually tested them out. So if we go here, very, very similar. You've got trigger, you've got action. Now, the thing about Automate is some of their more advanced pricing plans have what we call complex workflows. So instead of creating a separate recipe for every single thing, you can simply create a map, essentially, like this. Now, in terms of the differences are that, like I said, Zapier has more apps, but their pricing plan is a little bit higher. So if you're on a budget, it may not be as ideal for you. So when you begin to kind of compares apples to apples, you'll see that, okay, so there's always a free plan, but the free plan can only do so much. So in this case, actions per month equals 250. That means that if you upload to Pinterest and then that uploads to Facebook, that is considered one action. Over here, it says you get 5 zaps and 100 tasks per month. So tasks are very similar to actions, same word, it's just the same thing. So in this case, you only get 100. So that just means, let's say you upload a piece of content, and each content that you upload, let's say we look over here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So Pinterest alone has 4 tasks or actions. And then of course you have all these other lines here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 total every time we upload. So if you only upload maybe 2 pieces of content or even 3, that might be ideal. But if you upload, 10 pieces of content or like 20 pieces of content, that might not be for you. If that's the case, I will say there is a third option, which is called IFTTT. IFTTT is free, but it's just as powerful as these two. In terms of the top social media platforms, I would say that you can easily just use IFTTT for free and do it this way. The only reason why you would probably use Zapier or Automate is if you want to begin to integrate it into a lot more apps. So that's really the main difference here. So now, in this case, we are going to be using IFTTT simply because it's free and there's a lot of recipes inside, as you'll see. All right. So with that said, let's move on to the next video. Hello and welcome back. This is video number 5. And in this video, we're going to map out what we discussed in the earlier video where we basically brainstormed everything. So we are going to figure out, okay, how do we go from Pinterest to all of these items here? How do we go from YouTube to all of these items here? And then how do we go from Instagram to this item here and so forth? Now, I want to say, for those of you who are not really visual and you prefer just text, some people learn that way. A lot of people are visual, a lot of people are kinesthetic. And for those of you who are that way, kinesthetic meaning you're more hands-on and you learn that way, then this route is the best way to go. If you're auditory type learner and you would prefer text and the visual actually just confuses you, you can skip this step. But for the most part, for the majority of you, what I recommend that you do is this. So we've got Pinterest. So I'm going to go back over here. So right now I'm using Lucid Chart. That's LUCID chart.com. This is a site that I use and it is wonderful. I really like it just because being a visual / kinesthetic learner. So for those of you who don't know, there are 3 different types of people who learn different things. Auditory, meaning they prefer to listen. Visual means they prefer to visualize and see. And then hands-on, they prefer to see it, but actually do it. So we have YouTube. So I'm going to type that up. So at the moment, what I recommend that you do is just type up every single social platform that you're going to use. So we've got YouTube, we have Pinterest. So actually in our plan, we have Pinterest first, we got YouTube next as kind of the majority or the main pieces of the puzzle. So we got Pinterest, we have YouTube, we've got Instagram. And then we have Facebook. We've got Twitter. So I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually aligning things with Lucid Charts. So it's very convenient in that way, in that respect. So you can see on the left side is 1 inch, on the right side is 1 inch. It just makes things a lot nice, organized, so that when you begin to implement the process, you don't have to think which goes where. And of course, last but not least, we have the blog. So let me just double check this. So we got Pinterest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So we've got Pinterest linking to Instagram. So let's go back over here. So Pinterest is the main where we upload content. So I put the things on the top to signify that we're uploading it here. So this could be maybe the green boxes, and then these down here could be a different color, maybe blue. So in my brain, green signifies the places that we upload, and blue signifies the places that we upload or don't upload, and we simply post to these places. Okay, so let's go back over here. We've got Pinterest. Pinterest goes to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the blog. All right, so let's implement that. So Pinterest goes to Instagram, Facebook, so Instagram. So what you do is just put your mouse over here and you press your mouse and you drag it over here. All right, so let me move it back over here. So we got Pinterest to Instagram. We got Facebook, Twitter, and blog. So Facebook, where's Facebook? Here. Facebook, Twitter, and blog. Like that. So we could even just bring it down this, or even bring it down like this. All right, so there we go. Now, as you can imagine, things will start to get messy once you draw a ton of lines. So maybe just to simplify it, what I'm going to do is make Pinterest, let's say one color. Let's do dark orange. And I can turn these lines as well to a specific color. So we could do dark orange to signify that's Pinterest. And then with YouTube, we could signify it with the logo color being red. So we could do red. And Instagram, forget what the logo color is, but it doesn't matter. We're just going to make it purple. Facebook being blue, or actually Facebook is dark blue. And I'm going to change the font color to white. Twitter is sort of a light blue and has a bird. And then blog, we're just going to make that, let's say pink, green, yellow. We'll just do kind of a medium yellow color. Okay. Now for the ones that are dark here, I'm going to change the font to white. And I'm going to bold them just so that it's easier to see. All right. So by this point, we have said every time we upload to Pinterest, it will auto post to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and blog. In fact, we can just write that if you want to. So auto post, and type that here, and then here as well. So then we know exactly what to do. So we upload here, and then we auto post here. Now, when you look at the automation apps, what they're going to ask you to do is to find a kind of what happens, like a trigger and then an action. So trigger would be initially like, if I were to like kick a bucket of water, what would happen? Then the action is the water would spill over, the bucket will spill over, and the water would spill out, right? So that's essentially what you want to do. So if I kick the bucket of water, then the bucket of water spills over. So in this case, if I upload to Pinterest, then it auto posts that content on Pinterest to Instagram. If I upload to Pinterest, it copies it to Facebook, Twitter, and blog. So that's essentially the analogy that I want to give you so that you can understand what a trigger is and an action is. So you'll see that in just a minute when I use the automation tool. Okay, so at this point, we need to go back over here and we'll speed it up a little bit. So we got YouTube to Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. So let's do that. So we got Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. All right, so Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. So these three items here. So YouTube, we link it to here. We link it to here. And let's see how we not make it so it's not messy. We link it here. So I'm going to make these red, the same color as this box, so we can see like that. All right. So we got Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. Good. Now I'm going to say auto post again, just so we know. Like that. Okay, good. So we got red, red, red. So 3 spots. So Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. So we check over here, Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitter. Okay, good. So now we've got that done. We've got Instagram. So we've got Instagram to Facebook. And the rest of these are empty. So Facebook or Instagram to Facebook. So that's going to be here to here. So to make sure it's not too messy, I'm going to link it over here, like in the back. So that's the nice thing about Lucidchart is it locks in, tries to make it as easy as possible. And as, all right, so we got that and auto post, and there we go. So we now have a visual map as to what we need to do. All right. So we've taken all that. So the next thing we have is blog. So if you wanted to get more complex, you could have all of these. When any of these happen, you could post any of these to the blog. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to leave it as it is. All right. So let's move on to the next video and talk about the different automation tools that are available to you.